Hi, it's Marlene, and I'm back. And I thought that I would kind of update you on the things that I've been doing over the last week. And hopefully, you've been keeping busy. These summer months with all this nice weather has really, you know, build you up and makes you want to get out and do things. And this is the first year that I've really been ready to get out there. And I had a granddaughter and my great grandson staying with me for, off and on this summer. And right now he's in daycare and she is uh, at work. And she's going to be staying there till Thursday, possibly Friday, because he's going to his dad's house after daycare this evening. And then I'll pick him up on Friday and we will go out to the campgrounds, and we're going to stay from Friday probably till Monday for the Father's Day weekend. Anyway, so that's going on. Wednesday was my granddaughter that I'm talking about's birthday. She was 33 years old, and I baked a cake, and my great granddaughter um, helped me bake it. And so, and then her parents and her brother came over, and um, her aunt and her two cousins came over, and we cooked spaghetti and stuff, and salads and all the good stuff, and had dinner. Kids went out and played football in the yard, and the grown-ups all talked, and it was a good time. And they stayed late. It was like 10 o'clock. I'm not used to staying up that late, so I was ready to go to bed after that. And so that happened, and just uh, going out and doing things. I went to the senior center again this past week, and had lunch and talked with a few people that I know, and just plan to go again on Thursday. I was going to go tomorrow, but I forgot that I have a banquet dinner with one of my good friends I've known for like 30 years. Um, Tomorrow for lunch. It's a banquet lunch, and so I'll be doing that tomorrow. And then I'll come home, and I think I'm going to try to get that kitchen swept and mopped. I've washed all the rugs and things today, and they're drying, and so they'll be dry tomorrow when I get back from that lunch, and I'll try to get that done. If not, it'll be the next day. I mean, I don't have anything to do on Wednesday. Thursday, I plan to go back to the senior center and play dominoes. And Friday, like I said, is camping. So just a whole lot of things going on. And I hope that you're doing things too. Um, but today I've got my notes. I'm the note woman. I've always had to have notes because I think it's ADHD or something. I just lose my train of thought and I go off on tangents like I do on here. Um, and this one is the hardest part about aging that nobody warned me about. Well, what about that? Um, we always talk about physical aging, but nobody ever talks about the emotional aspect. You know, yeah, we know our body's aging, but you're still in your mind, you're still young, and you still think you can do the things you could do before, and that's kind of limited. And then, you know, the things like the losses, people passing, um, friends have moved away, kids have grown up, and I'm fortunate that all three of my children live very, I live in West Virginia and they live in Kentucky, but it's not that big of a difference in getting back and forth. So, um, there's just so many things. Being alone. learning how to be comfortable by yourself. I'm very comfortable by myself. I'm very independent. And like I said, having my granddaughter and my great grandson here this past week has just exhausted me. I had to take today, I was going to go to the senior center today, and I didn't go because I was just too exhausted. Anyway, so I took a down day just to ease, you know, give my mind a rest, give my body a rest, and just relax. And so, those emotional changes are big that we go through. And then, other things are feeling invisible. Sometimes we think that people don't see us because we're older, and we might feel like we're overlooked, ignored. Um, and that can affect our confidence and our connection to other people. If you're by yourself too much, you get to thinking, oh, well, nobody wants to be around me. And then too I mean, if there's a lot of people around, then you get exhausted. But, feeling like, I worked all those years, and I run into people that I work with, and we talk, and, we talk about old times and stuff. But really, to get out and have dinner or something with them, we don't do that anymore because everyone has their own life. I was, a supervisor, and I was older. I was uh, in my late 40s when I graduated with my master's degree. And I supervised people fresh out of college. So there's a big age difference there. So I see them out and we talk, but it's not like we're going to hang out because, the age difference, and I'm interested in different things than what they are. And some of them are still or just dating, and some of them are married and started their families. So that's, something. So sometimes you feel like, well, you know, okay, we're Facebook friends, and we may talk on Facebook some, but sometimes you get to feeling like you're ignored if somebody doesn't call or you don't get that text message. Um, and I always, uh, for a long time, I felt like, well, if they don't call me, they don't want to talk to me, and I wouldn't reach out to them because I thought they didn't want to be bothered. Well, they're busy too. And when I started texting and reaching out, I've got all this grandkids and great grandkids showing up now, and coming around more so than when they were growing up when were so busy. Um, and the next thing on my list is, our energy changes. I touch on that, I think, every video. Um, I can't do the things I used to do. I can keep my house, but I have to do things and not realize that I can't clean the whole house in one day like I used to be able to do. On the weekend, I would get the house done and go out and do things with my husband. But I'm not like that anymore. I had that wild energy burst last week, and swept and mopped the living room, the bedroom, the bathroom, and mopped. I swept them all, I mopped them all, I cleaned out the sweeper, and went out and did some weeding in the yard. And I just don't have the energy to get things done, and I have to be okay with that. And I don't have like all the laundry and things that I used to have because I change my bed every week. And I then with my clothes, after my bed clothes are clean, I'll take my clothes and I'll just put them in the washer. When I have a load, I'll wash that. same with the towels. After I wash my clothes, then I'll start unloading the towels and the white clothes until I have a load. And then I do that, and I may wash it today and dry it tomorrow, or I may wash it and put it in the dryer and forget about getting it out and have to either run it for to get some wrinkles out of things, or they're fine because we've got all this wash and wear stuff now that it doesn't wrinkle like it used to. But, you know, sometimes our routines are not always the same, and our expectations of what we can do aren't the same, but that's okay. Okay. And then, I touch on the grief and loss. I lost my husband, I lost my bonus son, I lost a granddaughter, and a brother in law, and a nephew, all in a short span of time. And that was the hardest thing trying to get through. And I still struggle at times. And, nobody can put a time on grief. You have to grieve at your own pace, and you may slip in and out of it, and that's okay too. Uh, the loss of income. When I retired, my income was cut down to a third of what it was when I was working. So, you have to, but then, I wasn't buying the gas that I was buying. I wasn't buying the clothes that I needed to work in an office and the community. So it kind of leveled out some, but it's still with prices, utilities, and gas and everything, groceries going up. It's a struggle at times, and I really have to budget. Um, and then there's the still needing purpose, finding things that you love and doing them, and still have goals. I have goals. You know, I have an Etsy shop. I put things in there. I have a child's YouTube channel, but I really haven't worked at it. I need to have the goal of getting back to that. And then I started this YouTube channel because I needed to find something to give me a purpose. And I thought if I could share my story with others, that would help somebody else too. And they in turn can help me with things that they're doing that can help me get through some of my problems and issues as well. Um, and creativity. If you're a creative person when you're young, you still got that creative aspect of yourself, but sometimes we forget. I sew, but sometimes I will leave it be for a while because I just don't have the energy to go in there and do it. But then when I do, I sit down and I do a lot, and then I'm tired, but I've got something accomplished, and I'm really proud of myself. Um, and then next on my agenda is the good parts of aging. Let's talk about that. Caring less about other people's opinions. We don't have time to mess with other people's opinions. We've got an opinion, they're welcome to theirs. Um, Take appreciating the small moments. You know, Grandchildren being here, baking a cake, and having my granddaughter so happy that she had, her birthday cake. She was a twin, and it was her twin sister was the granddaughter that I lost, and that's been not a very long time ago. So, she's still having issues with that. She's a twin. It's bad enough losing a sibling without them being your identical twin. Um, and learning what truly matters. Things matter. My family matters. God matters. God, family, country, and then other things. My friends, things that we do, you know, my YouTube channel, my Amazon. I also have some books on Amazon. The books on Amazon, the Etsy store. Those things are behind the things that are most important to me. but they're still important. And then finally, before ending, I want to talk about, you know, you're not being alone. There's so much life ahead of us. There's life ahead of me, there's life ahead of you, and they're still meaningful. There's things we can do. We can, our wisdom from age is indispensable that we can share with others. My grandkids ask me questions. I, you know, one thing is I was a mental health counselor, and they may ask a question to do with that, and I can give them advice. They don't have to take it, but and my granddaughter that's a nurse actually has had mental health patients, and some of the things that she's asked me has helped me in treating her. I have another granddaughter who is a social worker, and she is a program director for a whole slew of case managers, and sometimes she will ask for advice about social work and things, because I was actually a social work I just actually had a license in social work as well before I changed to counseling and mental health. And I was a truancy social worker, and I worked with truant kids. And that's a whole other issue, because a lot of times kids aren't truant because they want to miss school. They're they're truant because maybe they don't have shoes, maybe they don't have clothes, maybe their parents were up fighting all night and they didn't get any sleep. Maybe one of them's scared to death that the dad's going to beat the mom to death, and he goes in the front door, out the back, and goes home to watch to protect his mother. There are so many other things. There are grandparents raising kids, especially in very, very rural counties, that don't think that school is important. They made it to the fifth grade and they're doing okay. They don't realize that in this day and age you need an education. Anyway, we have so much to offer to others. It doesn't matter what you did in before you retired, or even if you're not retired, you're still working, you still have meaning and purpose in life, and you can still help others. And from being, a doctor down to a janitor or a housekeeper, a homemaker, everybody has, and that's not even a down to, I don't mean to put it that way. Just from one spectrum to the other, we are all valued, and our family values us, our friends value us, and it's important that we realize that. And I thank you for being here, and I hope you come back next week. Leave some comments in the comment section about things that you do to keep you from staying home and not doing anything, from being lonely, from not feeling that you're worth something, to being able to give back and having a meaningful purpose in life. Anyway, I will see you next week.